Well, my name is Rebecca Gadberry, and I am the instructor, the senior instructor and program developer at the University of California in Los Angeles through their extension program. I've been there for about 30 years. I can't believe it's that long. And I also come out of product development. I'm also the 13th licensed esthetician in the state of California. So I've got an aesthetics background, a chemistry background, a marketing, and an education background. And I find that they're all really helpful to bring everything together under one umbrella so that I can help people from a variety of standpoints. How long have I been educating? Well, let me see. I think I started training my parents when I was about 2 days old, like we all do. But from then, from a formal standpoint of educating, I have been working in this industry for probably 40 years now as an educator. From anywhere from marketing education to chemistry education, ingredient information, and also the way that we use products, the way that we relate to our clients. I think that education is probably the most important thing that I do, and I think of myself as an educator before I think of myself as a cosmetic chemist or a marketer or anything else. Why do I love education? I love education because it changes people's lives, and it helps to awaken in people, if they're ready for it, certain parts of who they are and what they're searching for, and helps them integrate them so that we become better people, we become more happier people, more satisfied people. And I teach for the aha moment. So if I have a student in class that it suddenly hits them, this is what that means, or they have all this information that comes together in what I call the knowledge base, that is our own personal ownership of information and the way it fits together in our head, and suddenly there's that, that's what it means. That's what turns me on, and that's why I teach. So I don't care what I'm teaching. I taught retail sales, I've done motivational speaking. I even started out when I was in high school. I actually was going to college and high school at the same time, and my professor in college in psychology asked me to give a lecture on dream interpretation, and at 15 I was lecturing to college students about dream interpretation, and that was, I think, my first real formal lecture, and I got turned on from that point, and teaching's been part of me ever since. Oh, what are the upcoming trends? Well, that's a really interesting question, because I'm no longer in product development. I am in what I call the third chapter of my life. So to me, people talk about the first chapter and the second chapters of life. And at my age, I'm 61 years old, people say, oh, you're in the second chapter of your life. I think I'm in the third chapter, because the first chapter is before college. It's when you graduate from college and before that. That's when our core, who we are and what floats our boat, comes together inside of us. And we have, hopefully, created something inside of ourselves that drives us and helps us identify our passion. Well, now the passion frequently gets set aside and our dreams get set aside, and we go into the second phase of our career or our lives, which is where we have a career to pay the bills. If you can move past that, you get to the third chapter, and the third chapter is where you return to those dreams and that passion that you had, and you actually let it live. I still have my passion, and I had my passion through the second chapter, but it's the third chapter that I'm loving the most, because in the third chapter, I'm actually taking technologies now that are outside of our industry in synthetic biology, green chemistry, fourth generation stem cell science, proteomics, epigenetics, microbiomics, and I'm working with these companies and these research groups out of MIT and the University of California and other universities to bring these into our industry in a way that we can influence where we're going in industry and making our products better so that the promises that we make to our clients actually come true. So where are the trends? What are the trends? The trends is getting these new technologies in and learning how to work with them. So I'm not going to answer the where are we, what are the trends from the standpoint of this is a product trend. I'm going to answer it from the standpoint of this is a technology trend. And the trends that I see working working with the microbiome on the skin and in the gut to help to correct skin conditions such as acne, rosacea, also dry skin, and working with aging processes from that microbiome standpoint. And what is the microbiome? The microbiome is all of the microbes that make up our own personal ecosystem, our own bodies. We have over 70 trillion, we have over 100 trillion microbes that make up our bodies. 1 out of every 10 cells is a human cell in our bodies. The rest are microbes. I can go back. So I think what we're going to be doing is exploring these new technologies, the microbiome, epigenetics, which are the molecules that turn genes on and off or up or down. You know, genes make the proteins and the peptides in our bodies. Lipids are made under the instruction of these proteins or peptides. It's the epigenetic portion of our genes. These are the molecules that are placed on our genes to run those genes and to tell them how to behave, that I think we're starting to become much more clued into now than we ever were. And it turns out that any ingredient that gets past the stratum corneum is having an epigenetic effect, including our fingertips. When you touch your face, when you hug somebody, when you do a massage, you are having epigenetic changes in cells, in the nucleus of cells on DNA, that's causing hormones like oxytocin to be released. And that is a tend and befriend hormone. It's a comforting hormone. It's why our clients go to sleep on our tables. So I think science coming into our industry in a much more profound way than we've ever had it before is where the trend is. And do I think it's here to stay? Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I think it's going to become stronger and stronger. The more the fad of being against science goes away, the trend of being scientific is going to take hold, and I think we'll wind up within the next 5 to 10 years of being a scientifically based society and profession. What's the secret to being a successful esthetician? Well, first of all, you got to know who you are and why you got into this industry. If you got in there to just earn a living, slap some stuff on somebody, massage it around and let them go, and not worry about follow-up, not worrying about helping them with their skin, just helping them relax or whatever, you're going to have a career, you're going to earn money, but you're not going to be a success. Because people come to estheticians, to us, because we can help them with the problems that they're currently having with their skin, but also with what they want to know more about their skin, the ingredients. They want to feel better about themselves. When you look good, you feel better. There's actually a program for cancer survivors called Look Good, Feel Better, and I think it's perfect as a statement for estheticians as well. Because when we connect with who we are, and we know that we're there for our clients, then you are present for your clients, you are invested in your clients, and you're doing everything you can for your clients. People understand that, they tune into that, they trust you, they respect you, and they want to come back to you and be loyal to you and tell other people about you. So when you respect yourself, when you are your true authentic self, if you will, and that's an overused term for just saying knowing who you are, what your values are, and living them, then you're going to be more successful. What's involved with that? Well, what's involved with that is being fully present every time you deal with a client, having them as your priority, not yourself. And I don't mean their daughter problems or their husband problems or their career problems, but getting them to be at ease, not only on the table, but getting them to feel better and look better when they leave you, and to continue to be there for them even when they're not in the treatment room. They know they can call you with questions regardless of the time of day, as long as you get enough sleep at night. Knowing that you are educating yourselves and staying at the forefront of education and learning from people who are based, again, in scientific principles, in fact and in reason, not in la stuff, not in, I forget what they call it now, but in the woo-woo sciences. What I'm saying here is that we need to be up on truth and on facts and we do that through science. Find people you can trust and stick with them. Find people who are at the forefront of research and share it with you. I'm not the only one doing this. I base my career on this, but I'm not the only one doing this. There are a variety of people in our industry and adjacent to our industry who are bringing you factual, fact-based information. Learn that, become more and more integrated with that way of thinking, if you will, and you'll be on top of your profession. Now, may I plug my Facebook pages? Okay. To that end, it's pretty hard to find and stay up with trends, etc. So I've started 2 Facebook communities. One of them is Skincare Ingredient Experts, and it's me with several other, well, with a variety of experts in the industry, where you can bring your questions about skincare ingredients, just like the name implies, ask the questions, but also I also publish information about new ingredients and trends in the skincare industry. So as estheticians, it's a great place to learn and to check out, to have a place to check out information. The other one is for cosmetic chemists as well as estheticians and anybody who wants to learn more about the trends in our industry, and it's called Trends in Cosmetic Science. So we talk about microbiology, epigenetics, proteomics, green chemistry, stem cell biology, and all of the new information that's coming out from universities and private business that you need to know about, and it's very exciting. And I also talk about innovation and how to be more innovative. What piece of advice did I get that has stuck with me? I'm going to be really silly here, and I'm going to say when I was 2 years old, I remember my mother holding out a golden book. Remember golden books that we all read? And she said to me, "Books are our friends. Books are our friends." Books have been my friends since that day, probably since before that, but I had no statement to that. Books are our friends, and they are always there to go back to and learn from. You can go and look something up, get that piece of information, and move on. I surround myself with books. I have my Kindle. I still have my Kindle. I have books with me all the time, but I also have, you know, what they call the brick and mortar books, or whatever it is, you know, something that's physical there, because you can look through, you can look things up and then close the book and put it back on the shelf. With a Kindle, you look it up, but you have to kind of hunt for it. It's not that physical sensation. To me, a Kindle is like a book. It's got the information. The thing that you've got to do with the statement, "Books are our friends," is to realize that just because it's in print, it's not true. That doesn't just make it true. You have to do the rest of the due diligence and find out who the people are that are writing the book. Are there other people that agree with it? Is it something that gets you to thinking about something else in your life or your career, with your family, with yourself, with doing a treatment? So I encourage you to read books. I read about 4 books a week to this day. I do a lot of audible listening because I can listen as I'm doing other things. And then I do a lot of Kindle reading and a lot of hard, what do they call it, the hard back or whatever reading as well. So Books Are Our Friends changed my life, and I think I'm going to be getting into a new phase in my career, well, where that statement's going to become even more significant and profound. How do I recognize a trend or a fad versus something that's going to stick around? Well, a fad is something that comes up really quickly. Everybody has it, but it's just fun. It's not anything, to me, a fad is not serious. It's like goldfish eating calluses off your feet. That's a fad. Putting little stars on your fingers, you know, that was a fad that became something that stuck around. I've had the same type of flower on my finger for the last 20 years. Started as a fad, it became entrenched with me. So does it have value? Is it going to offer value and make a change in people's lives? That's what turns a fad from a fad to a trend to something that sticks around. When my family got into the cosmetic industry as a manufacturer, it was 1973-74, and we were among the very first manufacturers to produce products with aloe vera. Well, I thought that was a fad. I was 19. I didn't really know what a fad was. I probably was a fad myself. But it became something that had real science behind it, that did make a difference in people's lives, that people could connect to. And that aloe vera then became a staple in our products, and it's expected to be there in some products now. Now we're revisiting it, and very interestingly, we're finding out more scientific reasons why aloe vera actually has the effects that it does. So I find that you have a fad that becomes a trend, and I heard this great statement the other day: a trend is right before trashy. So trendy is before trashy. Once you go into the trashy, it's pretty much over with. But if it takes the other route, if it goes into an area, again, of bringing value, and more people embrace it, and it's embraced by more companies. A fad is going to be embraced by one company, be picked up like wildfire or virally, and it's going to go crazy, and then it's going to flash out because it really doesn't have value. If it had value, it turns into a trend, other companies adopt it, and then if it's going to stick around, it's going to stick around again because it has value. But what I'm saying here is that things that were trendy, that had value, 20 or 30 years ago. I've been in this industry, believe it or not, for 51 years because I was a Mary Kay girl when I was 10, and I helped to support the family until I went off to college as a Mary Kay girl. So I had a job, and I was doing facials, and I was applying makeup on Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday afternoon, and sometimes Sunday. That was a half-time job for me, and that's how I helped earn money for the family. I've been in this industry to see fads and trends come and go, and I've also seen them stick around. And what I'm finding now as a scientist is that if we take something that was popular 30 or 40 years ago, and it worked, and it did bring value, if we take what we know now from scientifically being able to assay or investigate in another way an ingredient and how it works, we can find out new reasons why it stuck around and didn't stay as a trend, but became enmeshed in our way of doing being, what I call the hierarchy or the pantheon of the skincare industry. How do I keep myself motivated and inspired through the years? Well, that's a really good question, because I just came out of a time in my life where I wasn't motivated and where I wasn't inspired and where I actually wanted to leave the industry, which people will hear this and they know me and they'll say, how could you even consider leaving the industry? It's been a part of you practically your whole life, from the time I can almost remember consciousness for the first time. So how could you do that? Because I wasn't getting what I wanted anymore. My priorities had changed. When I allowed myself that downtime, and it worried me because I'm not the kind of person that takes downtime. When I allowed myself that downtime for the last, let's say, 12 to 18 months, I could reconnect with what my true passions are. And by reconnecting with my passion, what drives me, what I say floats my boat, if you will, that's how I stay excited and stay passionate. And sharing with other people, when I'm with other people, either going to a trade show, like right now, we're at the Philadelphia trade show, the conference with La Novella Aesthetique and Dermoscope, and seeing people and connecting with them and having wonderful conversations. What are you doing? This is what I'm doing. Oh, what can we do together? Oh, wow, that's really fascinating. And hearing people talk and just hugging people, connecting with people in a very basic way. That excites me. Also, reading, thinking. I love taking showers because that's where I get my best ideas. And a few weeks ago, suddenly it clicked in my head, I want to be back on track to helping to inspire people and reconnecting with my true purpose. And that's what my purpose is to teach and inspire and to influence the way our industry is going. Once I attach to my purpose, everything else falls into line. I don't need to inspire myself, because that's what my purpose is to inspire first myself and other people. So by doing that, by living what my purpose is every day, every minute, and allowing myself that downtime and saying, you know, you're not feeling fabulous today, just go read a book, just go lay down, just go take a shower, hug the puppy dog, go to lunch with your grandchild, with your niece, and allowing that personal part of your life, the who you are in your daily life, to be okay, and not to say, oh, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. Should be's or shoulding yourself really goes against yourself. Just support yourself, affirm who you are, and that you're in the right place at all times, and look for why you're in that place. Because if you say to yourself, this is bad, it's not good, it's not working for me, you're in that spot for a particular reason. Find out what it is. And I'm not going to get airy-fairy on you, even though I'm from California, and I could do that quite a bit. But to me, there's always something to be gained from any situation. Ask yourself what it is, and that's going to be inspiring on its own. Who are my mentors and who do I look up to as an educator? Well, Dr. Peter Pugliese was one of my favorite top mentors. I just got to hug him a few minutes ago, and we just decided that we're going to go to dinner tonight. So it's wonderful to see him. Pete has been an inspiration to me since I was about 25 years old. He is one of those people who has a sense of humor, who always has a fun insight into any situation, and who totally believes in the scientific application in the aesthetics industry. I have adored that man since I can remember. Another one is a man who passed away a while ago, and his name, he shall remain nameless, shall I say, but he was a lawyer who worked with a group called the Cosmetic Toiletries and Fragrance Association, which is now called the Personal Care Products Council, PCPC, out of Washington, D.C. And this gentleman, when I was 25, I turned 25 when I went to my first meeting for the CTFA, and he got up there and he gave such an amazing talk, talking about the facts and applying them to our industry in a way I'd never heard before. I have used him in the back of my mind as someone that I want to emulate, who I go back to for what I believe in, what kind of information I want to share with people, and in the way I want to share it. Dr. Albert Kligman, who was rated as the top dermatologist in the world for years at a time, he not only developed Accutane, he developed so many other principles and products that we use in our industry. And I was lucky enough to know Albert for many, many years. And Albert was irreverent. He challenged the system and your core beliefs, and he loved controversy. I loved that about him, and I try to do the same thing. I love to challenge core beliefs, to challenge, why are you doing that? What is it about that thing that you're doing that you think it's necessary to do? I want to tell you a little short story, and I tell this to a lot of people, but it's a story about a woman who was cooking a ham for Easter, I guess it was, and her husband was sitting at the table in the kitchen, and she took the ham, she put it into a pan, and she cut the end of the ham off. She measured about 4 inches with her knife, and she cut it off. And she laid the end of the ham next to the big part of the ham, and she put it in the tray, and she moved it into the oven. And her husband said to her, why do you cut the end of the ham off? And she says, you know, I don't know, but my mother always cut the end of the ham off. I guess it just makes it taste better, and maybe it makes it moister. And he says, well, why don't we call your mom and find out, because I'm really curious. So they call her mom, and her mom says, oh, well, my mom always used to do it. Grandma always used to do it, so I thought that's the way that it was done. So they said, okay, well, Grandma's still alive, so let's call her. So they called her. And you know what Grandma said? She said, you know, back then we had a wood burning stove, and it wasn't big enough to take the ham. So I always had to cut off 4 inches to get it into the oven. That's why the end of the hand was cut off. If you never question, you don't know that you're cutting the end of the ham off for no reason at all, or for a reason that no longer exists. So challenge authority, challenge the old ways of doing things. You might find out that there's a real good reason, but you're also going to find out if there no longer is. I'm a true believer in making room in your life for new things to come in. If you're still doing the old things, you're going to continue to do the old things, and the new ones can't come in and make your life better, nor for your clients as well. So I encourage you to do that. I've had a number of other mentors in my life. My mother, who was the kind of a woman who never knew that she couldn't do something. She was always out there applying herself, learning, and making sure that no matter what the obstacle was, she was going to get through it or around it in some way, but she was going to get to the path she wanted. And I learned so much from her about never giving up, always keeping your eyes on the prize, as somebody once said, and moving forward towards your goal. You may move this way, you may move that way, but ultimately you're going to wind up at your goal.